The entire restaurant went quiet when Danica stood up at our family brunch, champagne glass raised high like she was about to make a toast. Everyone turned to look, aunts, uncles, cousins, all packed around 3 pushed-together tables. I'd been sitting at the far end, barely included in conversations, when Danica's voice cut through the noise. "I just want to say something about my dear sister Callista," she announced, her voice dripping with false sweetness. My stomach dropped. Nothing good ever started with Danica saying my name like that. "She's been asking me for career advice lately," Danica continued, and I'd asked one question weeks ago that she'd ignored. And I told her the truth. "You, on my level, never." She laughed, and others joined in nervously. My face burned. "Callista, sweetie, look at you. Look at your life. You'll never be where I am. It's just not in your DNA." She sipped her champagne while I sat frozen, my hands clenched under the table. My mother beamed at Danica like she'd just given an inspiring speech. "And honestly," Danica added, turning to address the whole table, "people like Callista shouldn't even try to buy nice things. It's embarrassing when they do." More laughter. I stared at my plate, humiliated, unable to breathe. My name is Callista, and that moment at the restaurant wasn't even the worst thing my sister had ever done to me. It was just the most public. I sat there while everyone went back to their meals, pretending the humiliation hadn't just happened, pretending I wasn't dying inside. Danica returned to her seat at the head of the table, where she always sat, where our mother always placed her, and continued talking about her elite lifestyle like I didn't exist. But she had no idea what I was about to become. She had no idea about the envelope I'd received a week earlier, or the key that came with it, or the instructions from someone who'd actually believed in me. She thought she knew everything about my life, but she was about to discover she knew nothing at all. I looked down at my hands, still trembling slightly, and made a silent promise to myself. This was the last time I'd let her make me feel small. The very last time. Because Aunt Winslet had seen something in me that my family had spent years trying to erase. And I was finally ready to see it too. Growing up, everything had always been about Danica. When we were kids, she won a participation trophy at a school event, literally just showed up, and our mother threw her a celebration dinner. That same week, I'd won an actual academic achievement award for the highest test scores in my grade. My mother forgot to even mention it. "That's nice, honey," she'd said distractedly when I'd brought the certificate home. Then she turned back to Danica and asked if she wanted to go shopping for a new outfit. That pattern continued our entire lives. Danica got the attention, the praise, the support. I got the leftovers of affection, if anything at all. But Aunt Winslet had been different. She'd been my father's sister, and after he died when I was 12, she'd made a point of staying connected with us. She'd pull me aside at family gatherings and ask about my life. Really ask, really listen. "Your mother has her favorites," she'd whispered to me once when I was 16. "But that doesn't mean you're less valuable. One day, Callista, you'll see the truth about this family, and when you do, you'll be stronger than all of them." I hadn't understood what she meant then, but looking back now, I realized she'd been preparing me for something all along. Aunt Winslet died 6 months ago. The funeral had been small, and Danica had spent the whole time on her phone, barely paying attention. Our mother had cried dramatically, though I'd noticed she'd never visited Winslet when she was sick. I'd been the one sitting with my aunt during her final weeks, holding her hand, listening to her stories. A week after the funeral, a package arrived at my apartment addressed to me in Winslet's handwriting. My hands had shaken as I'd opened it. Inside was a sealed envelope, thick and heavy. I'd torn it open carefully and found a letter written in Winslet's distinctive cursive. "My dear Callista, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But I'm not leaving you alone. I've been watching your family for decades, and I've seen how they've treated you. It's time that changed. Inside this envelope, you'll find a list of contacts, people I trust, people who can help you. There's also a key. When the time comes, you'll know what it opens. You're worth more than they ever let you believe. Don't let them define you anymore. Build the life you deserve. With all my love, Aunt Winslet." Attached was a business card for someone named Sterling, a small brass key, and a list of names with phone numbers. The letter ended with one more line. "When the time comes, use the key." 2 weeks after receiving the envelope, I was at another family dinner when I overheard something that changed everything. Danica had stepped outside to take a phone call, and I'd gone to the kitchen for water. Through the window, I could hear her voice, loud and confident as always. "Of course I can afford it," she was saying to whoever was on the phone. "My credit line is excellent. I'll have the payment to you by Friday." She sounded smooth, practiced, but then her tone changed. "Please don't cut my credit line yet," she said, suddenly desperate. "I just need 2 more weeks. I have deals closing, I swear, just 2 more weeks." I froze by the window, listening. "No, I haven't told my family. They think everything's fine. They think I'm successful." Her voice cracked slightly. "Just please give me more time." When she came back inside, her smile was perfect again, her confidence restored. She bragged loudly about the designer shoes she'd bought and the luxury vacation she was planning. But I knew the truth now. Danica's elite lifestyle wasn't real. It was all credit cards and desperate phone calls and barely holding together. And for some reason, that knowledge felt like power. Not the kind I wanted to use cruelly, but the kind that made me realize I didn't need to feel inferior anymore. Her level wasn't as high as she pretended. 3 days later, I finally worked up the courage to use Aunt Winslet's key. The attached tag had an address, a storage facility on the outskirts of town. Unit 247. I drove there on a Saturday morning, hands sweating on the steering wheel, not knowing what I'd find. The key fit perfectly. The unit door rolled up to reveal boxes, filing cabinets, and a desk with a lamp still plugged in. Everything was organized meticulously, labeled in Winslet's handwriting. I spent 4 hours going through everything. There were ledgers showing decades of careful investments, property deeds to buildings I didn't know she'd owned, bank statements showing accounts in my name that I'd never opened. Winslet had been setting aside money for me for years. And in the very back, a folder labeled in red ink, "Use only when they underestimate you." Inside were documents that made my breath catch, business proposals, letters of recommendation written by Winslet to influential people, dated but never sent, a complete business plan for a consulting firm specializing in exactly the field I'd been studying. And a note, "Callista, I've built you a foundation. All you have to do is step onto it. Call Sterling. He knows what to do next." My hands were shaking as I closed the folder. Aunt Winslet hadn't just left me money. She'd left me a roadmap to an entirely different life. That night, I tried to talk to my mother. Not about the storage unit, I wasn't ready to share that yet, but about the years of favoritism, the constant comparison to Danica, the way I'd been made to feel like I didn't matter. We were alone in her kitchen, and I'd thought maybe, finally, she'd hear me. "Mom," I'd started carefully, "do you think you've treated Danica and me differently?" She'd looked up from her wine glass, surprised. "What do you mean?" "Growing up, and even now. It feels like Danica gets all your attention and support, and I get forgotten." My mother had sighed like I was being difficult. "Callista, that's not true. You're just more independent. You don't need as much help. That's not the same as being loved equally. You should try being more like Danica," she'd said, turning back to her phone. "More confident, more successful. Then maybe you'd understand why people pay attention to her." The words had hit like a slap. I'd stood up quietly and left without another word. But as I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Sterling. Winslet told me to reach out when you were ready. I can help you. She trusted me, and I think you should too. Let's meet." I stared at that message for a long time before finally typing back, "When?" Sterling turned out to be a man in his 50s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. We met at a quiet coffee shop downtown, and he'd brought a briefcase full of documents. "Your aunt talked about you constantly," he said, spreading papers across the table. "She knew your family didn't see your potential, so she spent the last decade of her life building something for you." He showed me business plans, investment portfolios, property holdings, all legally mine now, transferred before Winslet's death. "She was my business partner for 20 years, Sterling explained. "We built a successful consulting firm together. When she got sick, she made me promise I'd help you step into this world when you were ready." "Why me?" I asked. "Why not Danica?" Sterling smiled sadly. "Because Winslet saw who you really were. She saw your work ethic, your integrity, your intelligence. Danica has flash and confidence, but you have substance. Winslet believed you could build something real." He pulled out a contract. "I'd like to mentor you, bring you into the firm, teach you the business, help you establish yourself professionally. You'd earn your way, no handouts, just opportunity. What do you say?" I looked at the contract, at Sterling's sincere expression, at the future Aunt Winslet had tried to give me. "Yes," I said, "I'm ready." Over the next 2 months, I threw myself into work with Sterling. I took on small projects at first, learning the consulting business from the ground up. My confidence grew with each successful presentation, each satisfied client. I kept everything quiet, not mentioning it to my family. But somehow, Danica found out I was working with someone. At the next family brunch, a month after her public humiliation of me, she'd decided to strike first. "So Callista thinks she's a businesswoman now," she'd announced to the table with mock concern. "She's working with some random person, probably got scammed into a pyramid scheme or something." Everyone had laughed. "No, I'm serious," Danica had continued. "She's been acting really strange lately, delusional honestly, talking about opportunities and growth. It's kind of sad." My mother had nodded sympathetically. "Callista's always been a bit unstable ever since she was young." I'd sat there taking it, my face burning again, wondering how much more I could endure. But then I'd noticed something. My cousin Kaida, sitting across from me, had been recording the conversation on her phone. When our eyes met, she'd given me the smallest nod and kept recording. "It's just concerning," Danica had finished. "Someone should probably check on her mental health. She's basically a charity case at this point." The table had gone quiet then, uncomfortable. And Kaida had stopped recording, her expression dark. 2 days later, the recording started circulating among family members. Kaida had sent it to a group chat I wasn't part of, letting them all hear Danica's cruelty without my presence to complicate things. My phone exploded with messages. Aunts saying they'd had no idea Danica was so mean. Uncles expressing disappointment. Even some cousins reaching out to apologize for laughing. But my mother's call was different. "Callista, you need to apologize to your sister immediately," she demanded without greeting. "Apologize for what?" "For whatever you did to make Kaida record that conversation and spread it around. Danica is humiliated. People are talking about her." "People are talking about her," I'd repeated in disbelief. "Mom, she called me delusional and a charity case, in front of everyone." "She was joking. You're too sensitive. You always have been." My mother's voice had been sharp. "Just apologize and stop causing drama." I'd hung up without responding, and for the first time in my life, I hadn't felt guilty about it. Sterling had been right when he'd said earlier that week, "The people who minimize your hurt are usually the ones causing it." I was done minimizing my own pain to make them comfortable. 3 weeks later, Sterling handed me my first major project, a complete corporate restructuring plan for a mid-sized company. I'd worked on it for days, barely sleeping, determined to prove I belonged in this world. When I presented it to the client, Sterling had sat in the back of the room, silent but supportive. The client had loved it. "This is exactly what we needed," the CEO had said, shaking my hand. "You have a real talent for this. We'd like to contract with your firm for ongoing consultation." After the meeting, Sterling had pulled me aside. "You did that entirely on your own," he'd said proudly. "I barely coached you. That was all your work, your insight, your skill." He'd handed me an envelope. "Your commission from that contract, you earned it." Inside was a check for more money than I'd made in 6 months at my previous job. I'd stared at it, overwhelmed. "And one more thing," Sterling had said, pulling out a set of keys. "You'll need these soon, trust me." I'd looked at the keys, confused, but Sterling had just smiled. "All in good time, Callista, all in good time." That night, I deposited the check and allowed myself to feel something I hadn't felt in years: pride. Real, genuine pride in something I'd accomplished completely on my own. Around the same time, Danica's carefully constructed life started crumbling visibly. I hadn't been seeking information about her. I was too busy with work, but Kaida had started texting me updates. "Your sister's in trouble," one message read. "I heard she's maxed out 4 credit cards." Another, "She just borrowed money from 3 different relatives with different excuses." Then, "Her bank is threatening to repossess her car. I heard her crying on the phone at Mom's house." I didn't feel satisfaction hearing these things. Mostly, I felt sad. Sad that Danica had built her entire identity on material things and appearances. Sad that our mother had encouraged that emptiness by praising only surface achievements. One afternoon, I actually found myself considering calling Danica to offer help. But then I remembered the brunch. I remembered her standing up with that champagne glass, announcing to everyone that I'd never be on her level. I remembered years of being made to feel worthless, and I realized that helping her now wouldn't fix our relationship. It would just enable the same pattern where I diminished myself to make her comfortable. So I focused on my own life instead, on building something real, on becoming someone I could respect, and I let Danica face her own consequences for once. The next family gathering was at my mother's house for someone's birthday. I'd almost skipped it, but Kaida had texted, "Please come. I need someone sane there." When I arrived, Danica's car was already in the driveway, a luxury sedan she'd bought last year and never stopped talking about. Inside, she was holding court in the living room, showing everyone photos on her phone of designer handbags and expensive restaurants. "This is from last weekend in the city," she was saying. "Reservation list is 6 months long, but I have connections." My mother beamed. "You're so successful, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." Nobody mentioned the recording. Nobody acknowledged what she'd said about me. It was like it had never happened. I stayed quiet, observing from the kitchen when Danica noticed me and walked over. "Still here," she said with false sweetness. "I'm surprised you bothered showing up." "It's family," I said neutrally. "Right, family." She leaned closer, her voice dropping. "Listen, Callista, I don't know what game you think you're playing with this consultant job or whatever, but let me be clear. Stay in your place. You're the struggling sister. I'm the successful one. That's how this family works." Before I could respond, she'd walked away, rejoining the conversation in the living room. And I'd stood there thinking about those keys Sterling had given me, wondering what they opened, wondering when the right time would come to use them. That evening, Kaida followed me out to my car as I was leaving. "I can't stand her," she said bluntly. "Danica, I'm so tired of watching her bully you while everyone pretends not to notice." "It's okay," I said automatically. "No, it's not." Kaida pulled out her phone. "I need to show you something. I wasn't sure if I should, but you deserve to know." She showed me photos, screenshots of documents. "Danica left these on Mom's printer last week. I grabbed them before anyone else saw." The documents were bank statements and collection notices, evidence of debts Danica had hidden, maxed credit cards, loan applications, and one particularly damning document, a forged reference letter for a job application claiming she had qualifications she didn't have. "She forged this?" I asked, zooming in on the signature. "That's what it looks like. I took pictures in case. I don't know, in case you ever needed proof of who she really is." Kaida looked at me seriously. "Your sister's life is crumbling and she knows you're rising. That's why she's getting meaner. She's scared." I stared at those documents for a long time. I could use them. I could expose her. But something Aunt Winslet had written in one of her letters came back to me. "The best revenge is building a life so full of genuine success that their lies become obviously irrelevant." "Thank you for showing me," I told Kaida, "but I don't think I need to do anything with these." The truth has a way of revealing itself. A few days later, I overheard something I wasn't supposed to hear. I'd stopped by my mother's house to pick up some old photo albums she'd said I could have. When I arrived, my mother wasn't home, but I heard voices from the backyard. Through the window, I saw Danica on her phone, packing anxiously. "Please," she was saying, and her voice was nothing like her usual confident tone. She sounded desperate, broken. "Please don't take my car. It's all I have left." It's the only thing people see that makes them think I'm successful. Silence while the person responded. "I know I'm 3 months behind on payments, I know, but I'm waiting for money from my mother. She's helping me, just give me 2 more weeks." More silence. Then Danica's voice cracked. Fine, come take it, I don't care anymore." She ended the call and sat down on the patio furniture, putting her head in her hands. For a moment, I saw my sister not as the confident bully who tormented me for years, but as a scared woman who'd built her entire identity on a foundation of lies. Part of me wanted to go out there, to offer comfort, to help, to be the bigger person. But then I remembered her words at the brunch. "You'll never be on my level." And I remembered that being the bigger person had only ever meant making myself smaller. So I quietly left, taking my photo albums with me. Danica would have to face this on her own. A week later, Sterling called me into his office with a serious expression. "I have news," he said, "about the properties Winslet left you, and about her stake in our consulting firm." He spread documents across his desk. "Your aunt owned 40% of this company. When she died, that stake transferred to you, which means you're not just an employee here, Callista, you're a partial owner." I stared at the papers, unable to process what he was saying. What? "You own 40% of a successful consulting firm. You have voting rights, profit shares, the whole package. Winslet structured everything so you'd have stable income and professional status. She wanted to make sure you'd never have to depend on your family again." Tears filled my eyes. "She did all this for me. She believed in you," Sterling said gently. "And she wanted to give you the foundation to build something real. No debt, no strings attached. Just opportunity." He pulled out another document. "Which brings me to the next thing, the keys I gave you. They're for a car Winslet purchased before she died. It's been in storage, waiting for you to be ready. I think you're ready now." My heart was racing. What kind of car? Sterling smiled. The kind that will make a statement when you're ready to make one. Your next step is showing your family who you've become, not aggressively, not cruelly, just truthfully. He handed me an address. The car's waiting for you. Use it when the time is right. The following week, I decided to treat myself to a modest new outfit for an upcoming family event. Nothing extravagant, just something that made me feel confident and professional. I was leaving the store when I literally bumped into Danica in the parking lot. She looked at the shopping bag in my hand, then at my face, and burst into laughter. "Are you seriously shopping here?" she said loudly, attracting attention from people nearby. "Callista, please, you'll never be on my level." Even your shopping screams desperate. Heat flooded my face. Before I could respond, my mother's car pulled up. She'd been in the same shopping center. She parked and walked over, immediately noticing the tension. "What's going on?" she asked. "Callista's trying to dress above her station," Danica said with mock concern. "It's actually kind of sad." My mother looked at me, then at the bag, and smiled in a way that made my stomach hurt. Not a kind smile, a condescending one. "Sweetheart, you should dress for the life you have, not the life you want," she said, echoing advice she'd given me since childhood. "There's nothing wrong with being practical." They walked away together, leaving me standing alone in the parking lot. But as I loaded my bag into my old, beat-up car, I thought about the vehicle waiting for me in storage, about the business I partially owned, about the life I was building that they knew nothing about, and I decided it was almost time to show them. 2 days later, an invitation arrived in the mail. An elite networking dinner hosted by the Chamber of Commerce, featuring prominent business leaders from across the city. The kind of event Danica had bragged about for years, claiming she'd definitely be invited one day, but never actually receiving an invitation. The invitation was addressed to me specifically, noting my position with Sterling's firm and my recent successful client work. My hands shook as I read it. This was real. This was actually happening. I was being recognized in circles my sister had always pretended to be part of. I called Sterling immediately. "Did you see the invitation?" he asked. "That's because of your work, Callista, that client you impressed. He sits on the chamber board. He specifically requested you be invited." "I don't know if I'm ready for this," I admitted. "You're ready," Sterling said firmly. "And I think it's time you picked up that car. You'll need to make the right impression." That weekend, I went to the storage facility he directed me to. Inside was a vehicle covered with a protective tarp. When I pulled it off, I actually gasped. It wasn't ostentatious or flashy, but it was beautiful, elegant, and unmistakably expensive. The kind of car that quietly announced success without shouting about it. A note from Aunt Winslet sat on the dashboard. "For my brilliant niece, drive this and remember, you are exactly as valuable as I always told you." I sat in the driver's seat and cried. The day I picked up the car, I'd planned to drive it straight home and park it safely in my building's garage. But fate had other plans. As I was leaving the storage facility, my phone rang. Kaida frantic. "Danica's at Mom's house completely melting down," she said. "Her car got repossessed an hour ago. She's losing it. Mom's losing it. It's chaos." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because Mom's demanding you come over and help your sister. She's calling everyone in the family, making it sound like you're being cruel by not dropping everything to solve Danica's problems." I took a deep breath. "I'm not going." "Good," Kaida said firmly. "But I wanted to warn you. Mom's apparently planning to ban you from the upcoming family gathering as punishment for not helping." The irony wasn't lost on me. Banned from a family gathering after years of being treated like an inconvenient afterthought at every gathering. "That's fine," I said calmly. "I have another event that night anyway." "The chamber dinner?" Kaida asked. She was the only family member I'd told about the invitation. "Exactly. Please tell me you're going to let Danica find out about that," Kaida said with barely suppressed glee. "The universe has a way of revealing things," I said diplomatically, but I was smiling as I said it. The confrontation happened 2 days later. My mother called, her voice cold. "Callista, your sister is in crisis. Her car was repossessed. She's devastated, and you're just, going about your life like nothing matters. Mom, Danica is an adult. Her financial problems are not my responsibility. Family helps family. Family should have helped me when I was struggling too," I said quietly. But nobody did. In fact, Danica publicly humiliated me at that brunch. She told everyone I'd never be on her level, remember? She was joking. She wasn't joking. And I'm done pretending that treating me terribly is somehow okay while asking me to sacrifice for people who have never sacrificed for me. There was silence. Then, fine. Then you're not welcome at Sunday's gathering. I won't have you disrupting Danica's healing process with your negative attitude. That's fine, I said. I have another event that night anyway. What event could you possibly have? My mother asked skeptically. A work thing, I said simply. After I hung up, I texted Kaida. You were right, I'm banned from Sunday. Her response came immediately. Perfect. What time should I come help you get ready for the chamber dinner? That's when I realized I wasn't losing family by standing up for myself. I was just finally seeing clearly who actually cared about me. Sunday evening arrived. I'd originally planned to skip my mother's gathering completely as instructed, but Kaida had other ideas. I need you to pick me up from Mom's house, she'd texted that morning. I'll claim I'm not feeling well and need to leave early, but really I want to see Danica's face when you show up in that car. I'm banned, remember? You're picking me up, that's different. You won't even come inside. It was petty. It was beneath me. But after years of being made to feel worthless, I couldn't resist. That evening, I dressed carefully for the chamber dinner, elegant and professional. I did my hair and makeup with more care than usual, and I drove the car Aunt Winslet had left me to my mother's house, knowing I looked better and more put together than I ever had. The gathering was in full swing when I pulled into the driveway at exactly 7 o'clock. Through the windows, I could see the family inside, eating and talking. My mother's house was modest but well kept, and the driveway was full of the same family cars I'd seen at every gathering for years. And then there was my car. Sleek, beautiful, impossible to ignore. I texted Kaida, I'm here. Within minutes, faces appeared at the windows. I saw someone point. Then Danica appeared at the front door, squinting into the dusk, trying to see who'd arrived in such a nice vehicle. Our eyes met through the windshield. I stepped out of the car slowly, taking my time, feeling every eye on me. The evening air was cool, and I was grateful for the confidence my outfit and hair and makeup gave me. I wasn't here to gloat. I was just here to exist, but my existence, it seemed, was enough to stop the party cold. Danica walked down the porch steps, her mouth slightly open. Behind her, my mother and several relatives crowded into the doorway. Whose car is that? Danica asked, her voice tight. I opened the passenger door for Kaida, who was walking toward me with a grin. Then I looked at my sister. Mine, I said simply. That's yours. Danica's voice cracked slightly. You're lying, there's no way you can afford. It was a gift, I said. From Aunt Winslet, she left it for me along with several other things. My mother pushed past Danica. Winslet left you things, what things? Property, business investments, mentorship opportunities. I kept my voice calm and factual. She set up quite a lot for me, actually. I've been building a career in consulting. Tonight I'm attending the Chamber of Commerce networking dinner downtown. The silence was deafening. Then Danica laughed, but it sounded desperate. You, at the chamber dinner. That's for actual professionals, Callista, not whatever you think you are. I'm a partial owner of a successful consulting firm, I said calmly. I was invited because of a project I completed that impressed a client on the board. It's very real, Danica. Behind her, I saw Danica's boyfriend, someone who'd always ignored me at gatherings, step forward. Are you hearing? He asked seriously. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then everything exploded at once. Danica's face contorted with rage. You're lying, she screamed. You're making all of this up to humiliate me. I'm not trying to humiliate anyone, I said quietly. I'm just living my life. Your life, you're pathetic, you're nothing, you'll always be nothing. Her voice was getting louder, more unhinged. The neighbors' lights were coming on. You're the struggling one, the desperate one, I'm the successful sister. That's how this works. Danica, honey, calm down, my mother started, but Danica wasn't listening. She's trying to destroy me, Danica shouted, turning to the family members watching from the porch. She's been jealous of me our whole lives. She's making up stories about Aunt Winslet and fake businesses, and I have documentation, I said calmly. Legal paperwork, business contracts, but I don't need to prove anything to you, Danica. I know what's real. I turned to get in my car, but Danica grabbed my arm. You can't do this. You can't just show up here looking successful when I'm... She stopped, realizing what she'd been about to say. When I'm falling apart. The family was witnessing all of it. Danica's desperation, her anger, her complete lack of composure. And they were seeing me stay calm through all of it. My mother finally stepped forward, her face troubled. For the first time, she seemed to see both of her daughters clearly, and she didn't like what she saw in Danica's breakdown. Danica inside, now, my mother said sharply. For once, she wasn't defending her. For once, she was embarrassed by her. Danica stood there shaking, mascara running down her face, still gripping my arm. "Let go of me, please," I said quietly. She released me like I'd burned her. "I can't believe you," she whispered. "After everything, you're really going to do this? Show up here flaunting?" "I'm not flaunting anything. I'm picking up Kaida, that's all." "Everything I worked for," Danica continued, more to herself than to me. "Everything I pretended to be, and you actually became it. How is that fair?" "It's not about fair," I said, and I meant it. "It's about being genuine. Aunt Winslet left me these opportunities because she saw I'd actually use them to build something real, not to impress people, not to compete, just to have a stable life." I got in the car, and Kaida settled into the passenger seat. Through the windshield, I could see my family, some shocked, some impressed, some angry. My mother looked like she was seeing me for the first time. As I put the car in reverse, Danica's boyfriend approached my window again. "I'm serious about the job question," he said quietly. "I just graduated with a business degree. If your firm ever needs, email me," I said, and gave him my work address. "We're always looking for genuine people." I drove away without looking back. In the rearview mirror, I saw Danica sink down onto the porch steps, her perfect party destroyed by the simple truth of my existence. My mother stood over her, for once not rushing to comfort her, and I felt nothing but relief. Relief that I'd finally stopped shrinking myself to fit into their narrative. The Chamber of Commerce dinner was everything I'd hoped it would be and more. I walked into that ballroom in my elegant dress, carrying myself with a confidence I'd earned rather than faked. Sterling introduced me to city leaders, business owners, and influential professionals who treated me as an equal. Not because of my appearance or my car or anything superficial, but because of the work I'd done, the ideas I'd contributed, the value I'd brought to my projects. During the networking portion, the CEO whose company I'd helped restructure pulled me aside. "I've been telling everyone about your work," he said. "You're going to have more opportunities than you can handle if you keep this up." "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. As I drove home that night, taking the long route just to enjoy the smooth ride of Aunt Winslet's gift, I thought about Danica standing on that porch. I thought about her screaming that I'd never be on her level. And I realized something profound. I'd never wanted to be on her level. Her level was built on lies, debt, and desperate attempts to impress people who didn't actually care about her. Her level was exhausting, empty, and ultimately unsustainable. I'd surpassed it not by trying to compete with her, but by building something real, something solid, something based on genuine skill, authentic relationships, and opportunities I'd earned. My phone buzzed with a text from Kaida. That was epic. "Mom called me 3 times asking if what you said was true. I told her to ask you directly like a normal person would." I smiled and texted back. "She won't, because asking would mean admitting she was wrong about me." "Are you okay?" Kaida asked. "I'm better than okay," I typed. "I'm free." And I was, free from the need for their approval, free from the weight of their low expectations, free from trying to prove my worth to people who decided I had none. Aunt Winslet had given me more than property and business opportunities. She'd given me permission to see myself the way she'd always seen me, as someone valuable, capable, and deserving of good things. The next day, my mother called. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. "Callista," she said, her voice uncertain in a way I'd never heard before. "We need to talk about what happened last night." "Okay. Is it true, everything you said about Winslet and the business and—" She trailed off. "Yes, it's all true. I have documentation if you need to see it." Silence. Then quietly, "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me?" I asked. "Or would you have found a way to make it about Danica?" More silence. That was answer enough. "Need to go, Mom. I have a client meeting this morning." "Wait, Callista, I think I owe you an apology for a lot of years." "You do," I agreed. "But I'm not ready to hear it yet, maybe someday." I hung up feeling lighter than I had in years. Later that week, I drove past my mother's house on my way to a meeting. Danica's repossessed parking space was still empty. Through the window, I could see my sister sitting alone at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. Part of me felt sad for her. But a larger part remembered every cruel word, every public humiliation, every time she'd made me feel worthless. And I kept driving, toward my life, toward my future, toward everything Aunt Winslet had known I could become. My sister had said I'd never be on her level, and she'd been absolutely right, because I'd never wanted to be on a level built on lies and cruelty and empty appearances. I'd built my own level instead, one based on truth, hard work, and genuine success. And from where I was standing now, her level looked very far below mine. Not because I'd destroyed her, I hadn't, but because I'd finally stopped letting her destroy me. And in doing that, in simply living my truth and building my life, I'd shown everyone exactly who we both really were. The golden child with nothing real behind the shine. And the forgotten daughter who'd been golden all along. She just needed someone to believe it. Aunt Winslet had believed it. Sterling believed it. Kaida believed it. And finally, most importantly, I believed it too. That was the real victory. Not the car, not the business, not even the look on Danica's face when her world crumbled. The victory was me finally knowing my worth and refusing to let anyone decide my level for me ever again.